Hello everyone, I'm Anissa Batiste for the Democratic Republican Party, the DRP, of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Welcome to this special edition of Serving the People. Please let us start as usual with a word of prayer. Loving Father in heaven, bless me as I speak to the people that they may know the truth and nothing but the truth, that they may be warned and protect their inalienable or God-given rights and freedoms. In Jesus' holy name, amen. And now, my dear viewers and listeners, this program is called For the Highest Good, Against HPV Vaccine Dangers to Vincy Girls. The Ministry of Health in St. Vincent and the Grenadines is about to administer human papillomavirus vaccines, Gardasil and perhaps Cervarix, those are the two vaccines, to grade 6 11-year-old girls here in this land, with the claim that it will prevent these girls before they become sexually active from getting infected with the human papillomavirus or HPV, which it is also said prevents cervical cancer down the road. We here at the DRP are very concerned about the dangers and risks involved in taking this vaccine based on facts of girls and young women who have suffered terribly around the world, including women who have died. We want to show you information that you may judge for yourselves, do your own research, and make informed decisions concerning the lives of your young girls. Take a look in this first clip at evidence about how 700 girls in Colombia were damaged after taking the Gardasil HPV vaccine recently. Take a look.
Mario Lamo Jimenez is a journalist from Colombia. I had the privilege of interviewing him at the Autism One conference in Chicago last year. So Mario, you were one of the first ones, or the first one in Colombia, where you're from, to write an article about Gardasil, correct?
Yeah, that's right. That was in 2013. I saw an article in the newspaper. That was a paper that I was writing for a blog. And they said the Ministry of Health is going to vaccinate 3.5 million girls against the HPV virus with the Gardasil vaccine. I was living in California for 20 years, and I had some information about vaccines. So when I saw the heading in the newspaper, I wrote an article for the same newspaper about the dangers of the vaccine, because it was known that it had side effects all over the world where it was applied. So I wrote the article. It was the first article nobody knew about the vaccine, and also they hadn't started the vaccination campaign officially at that point. So the reaction of the paper was, can you prove what you're saying there? And they said I had to submit another article with more quotes, with sources. So I submitted a 50-page article that was supporting what I had said in the 3-page article. But they said, no, we cannot publish this because we're going to be sued by Merck, and you're going to be sued by Merck too. So they censored the article and they closed the blog. In Colombia, there is a town called Carmen de Bolívar. And Carmen de Bolívar is a very interesting town because it's a very close ethnic population. It's like native population that hasn't mixed very much with whites or blacks. It's like the original population. And they went to that town and they have a massive vaccination at the schools. And then the girls started to faint, the vaccinated girls. And the numbers grew every day. Like when I started writing, it was 70, then 125, then 400, until there were 700 girls affected by the vaccine. So what happened to them is they started to faint. And that's part of the effects of the vaccine. And that's been documented. There's no enough blood circulation, and they lose consciousness, and they were taken to the hospital. And the government response was, this is not related to the vaccine, this is a case of mass hysteria. That's the first answer, without having conducted any test without anything. It was like something that they had ready in their script. And then they said where the parents had a big demonstration. I think it's one of the first demonstrations in the world where people were demonstrating against a vaccine. So they carried signs, they took up to the streets, and so the government had to send like representatives from the Ministry of Health to talk to them. And they made many promises. Yes, we're going to study what's going on, we'll offer you whatever help you need. So they commissioned a study about Carmen de Bolivar through the National Institute of Health. And they had like 3 months to produce this study. And after 3 months, instead of producing this study, they started filtrating to the press like headlines from the study. No connection with the vaccine. This is a case of mass hysteria. They didn't publish the study. So I had to write a letter to that National Institute of Health and have it's called a right of petition. And I tell them I need to see this study because it wasn't published anywhere. Like 1 week later, I got a response. Okay. I got the study and they put the study in their website. The study was a whitewash. It didn't contain any substance. It has just statistics that didn't prove anything. They didn't interview the girls. They didn't conduct any test. They didn't talk to outside experts. It was like, it was pre-planned. So that's the story that they put to the public. The vaccine is perfectly right and the girls are crazy. Many started receiving psychiatric drugs, for example. And the clip that I showed you is one of the girls that they said, from Carmen de Bolivar, they say, you're crazy, we're gonna take you to a psychiatric hospital, and then she tries to kill herself.
Many young women in Colombia who were damaged by the HPV vaccine tried to kill themselves. Some succeeded. Why did they try to kill themselves? Because they were told that they were being hysterical and that there was nothing wrong with them. Here's the video to which Mario was referring. This was taken in the town of Carmen de Bolivar, where 700 young women and girls were damaged by the HPV vaccine.
My name is Selena Paravia Cara. I'm 15 years old. I'm one of the girls who received the vaccine. They had me hospitalized in Bogota 4 days. She's crying. I thought about suicide. She's my sister. She thought about committing suicide. She was going to be admitted to a psychiatric hospital or clinic because supposedly she is crazy. That's what everyone tells us. We're crazy. We are not crazy. In reality, before we received that vaccine, we were normal and happy girls that loved to have fun and hang out with friends. And now we are not capable of doing those things because they fear we can cause a crisis. She is one of the girls that was most affected. We were in Bogota admitted for several days with a group of women that treated us very bad.
Supposedly, we are faking it. We are begging for a quick solution because we want to be the girls we used to be, with the will to live and continue to move forward.
It's so sad that these girls are blamed rather than given assistance.
Yes, my dear people, did you see how horrible that is? But thankfully, as of August this year, 2017, there is a class action suit. Yes, there's a class action lawsuit against the Gardasil vaccine that was filed in Colombia on behalf of these 700 girls. They are suing the government of Colombia as well as the manufacturer of Gardasil, which is a company called Merck & Company. But that is not all. One of the arguments made about some of the Gardasil vaccines is that it does not contain the live DNA virus. You know, with vaccines, they put some of the virus in it so that when they put it in you, your body would create antibodies or have an immune response to build up antibodies to fight against the disease, and you will have immunity. But what the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration in America, has claimed is that the Gardasil does not have a live DNA virus of the HPV. However, take a look at this interview from a docu-series called The Truth About Vaccine, Episode 5, in which Ty Bollinger interviews Dr. Sin Hang Lee, a pathologist of many years, who explains that in his work, he tested persons who had died after taking the Gardasil HPV vaccine and found that there was live DNA of the virus inside of them, which they obviously got because they took the vaccine. Take a look.
Dr. Sin Hang Lee is a Chinese-American medical doctor and pathologist who received his formal medical education and his training in China. Dr. Lee has practiced diagnostic cancer pathology in North America for more than 50 years with extensive experience in testing HPV DNA in patient samples and the HPV vaccine Gardasil. Here's his story of how he got involved with Gardasil research.
Well, I came into the Gardasil vaccine just by accident. My main purpose in pathology, is to find out why people get sick, why people die, and how they die and how they get sick.
Yeah.
So I developed methods to diagnose HPV, accurately.
Okay.
Yeah. So that based on my publication, some of the women who felt their daughters might be hurt, injured by the HPV vaccination.
Yeah.
And they contact me, and see whether Dr. Lee could find something, in the vaccine. So. Okay. So it was,
So they came to you asking you. They knew that you were an expert at HPV. They wanted to see maybe the vaccine had injured their daughter.
Right. Because nobody else wanted to listen to what their opinions are.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So they just found my reputation in terms of publication.
Yeah.
And they said, could you help? Initially, I didn't want to get involved into it. I thought it was unlikely to find anything in a vaccine in terms of HPV DNA. Right. Because the manufacturing and FDA already said that all the DNA has been removed and it should not have any residual viral DNA left there.
Okay.
Right. But one of the mothers showed me a report, actually from Toronto, and said, "Look, my daughter's blood, had HPV DNA in it," and the report came from a Toronto independent lab.
Okay.
Yeah, and my daughter was 13 years old, and she was sexually not active, right? And there was no way for her to get HPV infection.
Except for the vaccine.
Except the vaccine.
Okay.
So I saw the report. Yeah. So I talked to the PhD who did the test in Toronto, and he convinced me that he did find HPV DNA in it. So.
Okay.
So the first thing I said, okay, in that case, I have to test the vaccine first, right? And see whether the HPV vaccine indeed contained any HPV DNA in it.
Okay.
Right? If they didn't contain any HPV DNA, there's no point for me to look for anything else in it. Right. Right. So
you tested the vaccine then?
Right. I tested the vaccine. Then
what did you find?
There are many mothers, you know, in worldwide, in New Zealand, in Australia, I think, I don't know Australia, but in New Zealand, in America, in I think some in some European countries. You know.
Okay.
So they send the specimen to me to test it. So I test every one of them. Good.
Okay.
HPV DNA.
So all of them had HPV DNA in them.
Yeah, the ones I tested.
Okay.
Yeah, all have it.
And this is after the FDA said that they don't contain any DNA.
Right. Yeah. When you have a free viral DNA, yeah, in a vaccine, and that contains aluminum, yeah, and when HPV DNA molecules are bound to the aluminum, and that new complex may be potentially risky, yeah, when you inject to the human being. So that's why. And also at the same time that one of the girl who died, you know, in New Zealand, and they got a court order to send it, the post-mortem specimen to me to analyze.
Okay.
Then I found the HPV 16 viral DNA left in the blood of the post-mortem material, and in the spleen, okay, as well.
So the autopsy showed HPV DNA.
Right.
So is that, what does that mean? Does that mean that it's likely that they died from the vaccine? What is the conclusion?
I think most likely from the vaccine, because this, and usually the vaccine DNA, when they bind with aluminum, they change the conformation to so-called non-B conformation, and the HPV DNA left in the autopsy material, okay, was in non-B conformation. The DNA I found in the post-mortem material was not a natural DNA from the virus. Okay. So it's most likely from the vaccine.
Just to summarize, Dr. Lee found free viral DNA in the HPV vaccine with every sample that he tested, despite FDA claims that the vaccine does not contain free viral DNA. Dr. Lee found HPV viral DNA in the blood of a New Zealand girl who had died and concluded that the vaccine had killed the girl.
Yes, my dear people, isn't that horrible? We need to know the truth about these things. Has any pathologist tested anybody in St. Vincent and the Grenadines to determine whether or not there's live DNA inside of the vaccine? No, but others have done it in other parts of the world to provide evidence in court claims that were brought by parents who were convinced that their child had died after taking the Gardasil vaccine from effects of the vaccine. I want you to take a look at this next clip. It is of a 12-year-old child in the UK who was paralyzed one day after taking the Gardasil vaccine. Take a look.
I'm Ginny Blesky, and this is my daughter Mia, who's 12. On the 21st of September last year, 2016, she had the first HPV vaccination at school. The following morning she woke up and she couldn't walk on her legs. She couldn't weight bear, her legs were shaky, and she had burning in either side of her spine all the way up her back. We took her to the doctors. They said take her home and give her some paracetamol and put her in the bath, she'll be fine, but she deteriorated by the afternoon, so we recalled the on-call doctor, who said just go straight to A&E. We took her straight to A&E and they admitted her for a few days. We've done video diaries right from the first day all the way through up until now, and basically within days, about 10 days of Mia having the vaccination, she completely lost the use of her legs. A couple of weeks after, she lost the use of her body went floppy. At each stage we've gone in and out of hospital, so she's been just finished her 5th admission in 6 months. And we've brought her home from that one. So her body went floppy, and then she lost the use of her neck, and then one arm and then the other arm, and the right arm was the last one to go, wasn't it? So for the last 13 weeks now, she's only been able to blink and speak. She can't use any of her limbs. She's incontinent. And it's hard, it's really hard to see your child who was singing and acting and wanting to be in the West End and go to the Brit school and enjoying sleepovers with her friends and doing all the normal 12-year-old stuff that she would do. And we just want her to be well. And we're just looking for somebody to help us find a recovery treatment for her because we just haven't got one. We just don't know what to do.
When the rain is blowing in your face and the whole world is on your case, I could offer you a warm embrace to make you feel my love.
Isn't that horrible? And finally, take a look at this next clip, which tells you about a nurse who's also a mother who lives with the regret that she herself administered the vaccine Gardasil to her daughter, whom she thought it would help from getting cervical cancer, but instead 6 months later the girl gets leukemia and dies from cancer.
Deep breath, everybody. Prepare yourself.
I went to school for about a year to do medical assisting, back office, give injections, draw blood, help in office procedures in pediatrics.
You gave a lot of vaccines as well, didn't you?
All day I gave vaccines. That was my job, to give vaccines to help prevent children from becoming sick.
In this particular story, it's actually you that administered the Gardasil vaccine to your daughter. Okay.
Oh, she was terrified of vaccines. I couldn't get her in the office. But I knew it was the right thing. I heard about this Gardasil that came out, and the doctor was giving this new vaccine out to prevent cervical cancer. And if your daughter or if your children were sexually active, you needed to get this vaccine before they were active. So this would take effect and it would prevent them from some kind of cancer. So I did what I thought as a mom and did the right thing, and I brought her into the office and gave her this new vaccine called Gardasil. My daughter was a healthy, vibrant, outgoing, fun, just healthy daughter.
Full of life.
She was full of life. The first one was given in the office. The second one, because I'm a medical assistant and the doctor was okay with it, I did bring home. I did administer the vaccine, and I remember giving it to her on her bed. And because she was terrified of shots and she would not come back into the office to get the second one. So I did administer the vaccine in her room, and I remember her, after I gave it to her, arm would not stop bleeding. It was gushing. And I thought, this is very weird. You know, this doesn't happen, you usually clot up right away. And it just gushed, and I had to hold it until it stopped bleeding. And they examined her, and she had petechiae, she had bruising, swollen lymph nodes, and hemoglobin of 4. And so they sent her blood work out right away. We went and got blood work. Called me a few hours later and said we need to admit her to Children's Long Beach Memorial. She has probably leukemia. And that was about 5.5 months after the Gardasil. And so we put her in the car, she was doing her homework. And I said, Brittany, we got to run some tests. They said that there might be something wrong. And I told her, you might have leukemia. She didn't know what leukemia was. And so my heart stopped, and there's nothing I can say. We all got in the car and we drove to Children's Long Beach and Children's Memorial in Long Beach. And one of her doctors met us there, and the oncologist met us there, and there was many other physicians that were, I'm guessing, doing rounds, and they just kind of brought him into the room. And that's when we were told that that's what it was. And they started prepping her for blood transfusion right away, and talking to us, asking us questions. And they asked if anything was different, if how has she been physically and mentally, and just they said the only thing that I think had changed was a vaccine that she had, and that was the only thing I could say, because like I said, she's been healthy. She was a healthy 16-year-old.
What did they say to that?
Absolutely nothing. And I kept bringing it up, and nobody would respond to me. We stayed in the hospital for 10 months, pretty much straight. We weren't allowed to leave because of her white blood cell count and her contacting other viruses. And so we were allowed to leave if her blood count was high enough. We can go home for a day or two.
To go from that beautiful, healthy,
animal lover. That made her day when they bring the puppies in.
So from here, from being healthy, so from the vaccine to this, how many months? 5.5 months, you say?
From the vaccine, she had her vaccine was October of 2006. March of 2007 is when she was diagnosed with leukemia, and January 3rd of 2008 is when she passed. She only lived 10 months from the time that she was diagnosed. This is the one that's very hard for me to see. This was just a few days before she passed. And then I was called January 3rd in the morning, and that my daughter was having trouble breathing, and to please come down. And I came down, and that's when we had to decide, because they put her on life support, what we were gonna do. And she had already been on life support once before, and that was October. And she had a 1% chance of coming out, and she came out of her first coma. And this is the second one, and her body has so just deteriorated, and they couldn't tell me if there's any brain function. She had meningitis also, and sepsis. That's what I was told on January 3rd. And I looked at her dad and I said, we can't do this anymore, and my daughter would not want to live like this, and if she's not going to have any brain function, I'm not going to let my daughter live like a vegetable. And for her, and being selfless, I had to just let her go. So we decided it was about 7 hours later, we got the whole family all together, and we were in the room, and I just held her hand until she passed.
I'm sorry. So sorry you're even here to tell the story.
I want to share my story because this is very important. This vaccine is horrible, and I don't know if I would have given it to her, she would still be here. And I feel really responsible because I gave it to her physically, and I don't know if I would have given it to her. I just thought I was doing what was right to protect my daughter from getting the cancer, and she got cancer. And I tried to protect her.
You see, my dear people, we want you to know about the risks and the dangers. We are not here to say, just we have to give you, because we have to follow a schedule and we have to meet some sort of timetable. The issue is, around the world, women have been damaged. Listen to me. In America, there is something called the vaccine court, the US vaccine court. And we are told in a certain article of 2013, US vaccine court pays $6 million to Gardasil victims, most claims not yet settled. Why is the government of America paying out millions to parents and families when they bring their claims and proof from medical reports and other scientific proof that yes, it was the vaccine that damaged the child, if the vaccine is so safe? Do we in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, does our government have money to pay millions to parents if their children are damaged by this vaccine when they take it coming soon? The warning is to you parents. Be responsible. Do your own research. Check out all these videos in this program and other programs we'll share with you. Go to Facebook on our page. It's called For the Highest Good Against HPV Vaccine Dangers to Vincy Girls. And don't just be led by some advertisement saying, protect our future, save our Vincy Girls, take the vaccine. You need to know what is in the vaccine, the dangers of the vaccine based on the experience of other girls before, as you've seen in the clips, and you need to make an informed decision. We do not advocate that you take it because we believe the risks are too great and the safety has not been established. But we will show you even more information. So stay tuned to another program, hopefully this Sunday from about 6:30 p.m. on SVG TV. And may God bless you as you assert your right to life, which is given by God in Jesus' holy name. Call 528-1015. That's 528-1015 for more information.